eyesight, the corneas were sloughed off, lungs got badly damaged, permanent disabilities of lung damage still continue amongst the survivors. A lot of psychiatric problems. The other date is 6 December 1992, when post-Babri riots, Bhopal was shut down for weeks. Again, there was loss of lives, property was burned down, and it took several weeks for the life to limp back to normal. So, after seeing all this, these two events remained etched in my mind throughout, as always, very clear. But it took me several years to formulate a book which was based on these two events, but was a work of fiction. So I'll just tell you a very brief synopsis of the book. The protagonists are Dr. Dilip Gadre and young Rehan Khan. They first come in contact on the night of 3rd December 1984, when thousands in the city are dying of a massive gas leak. Rehan's family is at the railway station on their way to Lucknow to attend a wedding. Rehan didn't go because of his board exams. He is severely exposed to the toxic gas and reaches Hamidia Hospital in a critical condition. Dr. Dilip admits him and starts his treatment, while his family is mowed down by the deadly gas at the platform. His mother, who was an asthmatic, and the two younger sisters die. His father is blinded by the corrosive gas. Rehan's father, actually, many of the parts in the story have some backdrops to the real incidents that happened during those days, those fateful days. Rehan's father is brought to Hamidia Hospital. He is presumed dead and is placed in the morgue amongst dead. During autopsy, he regains consciousness and is shifted to the same ward where Rehan is admitted. So now father and son are lying on adjacent beds, but they are unaware of it. The father is unable to see. His eyes have been damaged by MIC gas, and the son is unconscious. By the time Rehan gains consciousness, his father is discharged from the hospital. Dr. Dilip saves Rehan's life, and they develop a bond during his stay in the hospital. After being discharged, Rehan reaches home and finds his father alone. He starts searching for his mother and two little sisters. He goes back to the Hamidia Hospital and sees photos of his sisters on the display board for dead. Numbers 1275 and 1276. They are written below their pictures. So in one tragic night, two vibrant, pretty girls had become mere numbers. And this happened to so many families. Despite relentless search, Rehan is unable to trace his mother. He goes to the nearby Kabristan carrying her photograph. The grave digger recognizes the photo and shows him the grave where he had put her body. Few days later, Rehan and his father return to the Kabristan and perform a small ceremony in her memory. Rehan is never able to find out what happened to the bodies of his little sisters. Dr. Dilip gets busy with his life and Rehan with his own existential struggles. But their paths cross again after 8 years on 7 December 1992 night. The city is in a grip of rioting and arson post-Babri Mosque demolition. Rehan's father is killed by arsonists. After laying him to rest in the same Kabristan, a distraught Rehan comes out on the street and becomes a part of a violent, murderous mob. Dr. Dilip Gadre is returning on his scooter from the hospital. The mob sees him and starts chasing him. Dilip is brought down from his scooter but gets up and runs for his life. He enters a dilapidated building to save himself. 4 men, one of which is Rehan, pursue him and enter the building. They surround him, and as they are going to stab him, Rehan recognizes Dilip as the doctor who had saved his life during the gas leak. He saves his life and takes him to his home. Dr. Dilip spends the night with Rehan and his friends. Early in the morning, they take him safely to his home. The 8-year-old debt that Rehan had been carrying is repaid, but neither Rehan nor Dilip are thinking about it. It's the bond of humanity that drives them, and they make it more sacred by their actions. So this is, in a nutshell, about a book which went under the radar, as the session is about lesser known things. But it's from a person who lived in Bhopal and saw most of it through his own eyes. As today we are celebrating Bhopalism, Bhopaliyat, and Bhopalis. So I cannot stop myself from presenting before you a glimpse of Bhopali Mushaira. So this goes right from the main track to on a diametrically opposite direction. It's out and out hilarious, and I hope you will enjoy it. हमारे यहाँ दो देखिए, क्योंकि लेसर नोन चीज़ों के बारे में है, सूरमा भोपाली को तो सभी जानते हैं आप लोग, पर हमारे यहाँ दो बहुत ही मज़ेदार शख्सियत हैं, भैया मियाँ और बन्ने पहलवान। वो कभी उन्होंने अपने आप को पहलवान नहीं बोल पाए, वो बन्ने पहलवान। साहब इन दोनों के कैरेक्टर्स के अराउंड ये बिल्ड किया हुआ छोटा सा मुशायरा है, आप 5 मिनट लगेंगे, एंड आई होप यू विल एंजॉय इट। तो भैया मियाँ जो है, ये तो इन्होंने कभी कुछ किया नहीं, कभी छोटा मोटा शेर पढ़ लिया, कभी मछली पकड़ने निकल गए, पट्टियों पे अपनी ज़िंदगी गुजार ली। बन्ने पहलवान जो थे, एक ज़माने में वाकई में थोड़ी बहुत पहलवानी कर लेते थे, पर अब मुफलिसी के दिनों में ना तो बादाम ना काजू कुछ है नहीं अवेलेबल, तो छोटे मोटी ठेकेदारी करके अपना काम चला रहे हैं। शेर व शायरी का दोनों को बेइंतहा शौक है। कहीं भी, अच्छा, एक ज़माने में भोपाल में बहुत बढ़िया मुशायरे बहुत हुआ करते थे, तो कहीं भी शेर व शायरी मुशायरे का कुछ आयोजन हो तो ये दोनों वहाँ जरूर मौजूद रहते थे। एक बार इकबाल मैदान, जहाँ ये शाहीन बाज लगा हुआ है, यहाँ एक बार इंटरनेशनल मुशायरा ऑर्गेनाइज किया गया, तो लाजमी है कि ये दोनों भी वहाँ पे मौजूद थे। मुशायरे में बड़े बड़े नामी गिरामी शायर थे, और क्योंकि इंटरनेशनल नाम था उस मुशायरे का, तो सामने की रो में थोड़े से चंद फिरंगी भी बैठे हुए थे। अब शेर व शायरी अच्छी उर्दू तो अच्छे खासों को समझ में नहीं आती, उन्हें क्या आता ये पता नहीं, पर वो थे क्यों, इसीलिए उसको इंटरनेशनल मुशायरा कहा गया। तो साहब उसमें एक एक करके शायर आए, उन्होंने अपना कलाम पढ़ा, और वो एक एक करके जब खत्म हुआ पहला राउंड, तो उनको ऑर्गेनाइजर्स जो थे, जैसा कि होता है, वो पीछे सीढ़ी से उनको ले गया, वहाँ चाय नाश्ता चालू हुआ उनका। अब ये दोनों तो वहीं घूम ही रहे थे स्टेज के आसपास। भैया मियाँ ने कहा कि ये बढ़िया मौका है, और उन्होंने पीछे जो सीढ़ी लगी थी उससे चढ़ के स्टेज पे पहुंचे, उन्होंने माइक पकड़ लिया, और उन्होंने जो शेर पटका वो आपको मैं सुनाता हूँ, क्योंकि भोपाल में शेर कहने की कोई वो नहीं है, हम लोग शेर पटक देते हैं, जहां मौका मिलना चाहिए कि अच्छा 2 लोग हैं सुनने वाले, पटक दो यार शेर एक। तो साहब भैया मियाँ ने जो पहला शेर पटका है, उनकी भोपाली डायलेक्ट थी, तो वो आपके लिए पेश खिदमत है। शम्मा से कोई के दे, शम्मा से कोई के दे कि तेरे रेते रेते पतंगा रोरिया है, पतंगा रोरिया है। हम भी रो रही हैं, हम भी रो रही हैं, वो भी रो रही हैं, जमाना हजरिया है, जमाना हजरिया है। शम्मा से कोई के दे। अब बन्ने पहलवान क्योंकि वहीं तो मौजूद थे, और वो जो स्टेज बनाने का ठेका था वो उन्होंने कबाड़ा था, उन्होंने कहा ये मरदूत ऊपर चढ़ गया, इसने शेर भी पटक दिया, मैं पीछे रह गया। वो साहब तुरंत ऊपर आए स्टेज पे, उन्होंने उससे माइक छीन लिया भैया मियाँ से। अब उन्होंने जो शेर पटका वो भी आपको मैं सुना देता हूँ, पटक देता हूँ कि ऊपर खुदा है, नीचे खुदा है, ऊपर खुदा है, नीचे खुदा है, आगे खुदा है, पीछे खुदा है, दाएं खुदा है, बाएं खुदा है। लोगों ने कहा गहरी बात कह रहा है, ध्यान से सुनो उसको। तो वो थोड़ी बहुत शांति देख के उन्होंने फिर रिपीट किया था, ऊपर खुदा है, नीचे खुदा है, दाएं खुदा है, बाएं खुदा है, आगे खुदा है, पीछे खुदा है। एक आध बेसब्रे बैठे हुए, तो उन्होंने कहा आगे भी तो बढ़ी है, मैं कहा बढ़ रही है। फिर शुरू हुआ, ऊपर खुदा, नीचे दाएं, और बोले जहां खुदा नहीं है वहां काम चल रही है। तो साहब 2-4 ठहाके लगे, तो उन्होंने कहा कि अपन एक आध और पटकते हैं। तो उन्होंने कहा साहब देखिए कैसा जमाना आ गया, कैसा जमाना आ गया है कि इंसान इंसान को डस रिया है, इंसान इंसान को डस रिया है, और सांप कोने में बैठ के हंस रिया है। अच्छा, ये फिलोसफिकल शेयर था। भैया मियाँ बोले कि भाई फिलोसफी तो अपनी भी तगड़ी है, सेफिया के पड़े हुए हैं। उन्होंने कहा लाइए माइक इधर दीजिए, अगला शेर हम पटकते हैं। तो साहब उन्होंने एक फिलोसफिकल शेर पटका है भैया मियाँ ने कि या खुदा कैसे कैसे ऐसे ऐसे हो गए, कैसे कैसे ऐसे ऐसे हो गए, और ऐसे ऐसे कैसे कैसे हो गए। तो अब उनको लगा कि यार शांति है, फिरंगी बैठे समझ नहीं आया, इसको अपन अंग्रेजी में ट्रांसलेट कर देते हैं, क्योंकि अंग्रेजी उनकी बहुत तगड़ी थी, सेफिया के पढ़े थे। तो साहब उन्होंने या खुदा कैसे कैसे ऐसे ऐसे हो गए, ऐसे ऐसे कैसे कैसे हो गए, ओ गॉड, ओ गॉड हु हाउ हाउ, ओ गॉड हु हाउ हाउ, हाउ हाउ हु। अच्छा, भैया भैया जो थे वो उनकी जो नज़र थी ना चचा गालिब पे भी पड़ी थी, उन्होंने उनकी शेर शायरी की भी बहुत टांगे तोड़ी थी। तो वो एक छोटा सा, काफी वैसे तो गालिब साहब का शेर तो सभी ने सुना हुआ है कि इश्क ने गालिब निकम्मा कर दिया, इश्क ने गालिब निकम्मा कर दिया, वरना हम भी थे आदमी काम के। तो यहां तक तो ठीक था। उसका जो ट्रांसलेशन सुनाया भैया मियाँ ने वो आप सुनिए। इश्क ने गालिब निकम्मा कर दिया, दिस ब्लडी लव, दिस ब्लडी लव हैज मेड मी यूजलेस, दिस ब्लडी लव हैज मेड मी यूजलेस, वरना हम भी थे आदमी काम के। This bloody love has made me useless, otherwise I was the man of PWD. उनके जो बाकी के काफी सारे ये ट्रांसलेशंस हैं जो कि थोड़े से और पटरी से उतरते हैं, थोड़े से मतलब क्रूड की तरफ जाते हैं, इसलिए उनको तो मैं नहीं सुनाऊंगा इस ऑगस्ट गैदरिंग में। पर ये दोनों हमारे अंडर द रेडार कैरेक्टर्स हैं जो कि सूरमा भोपाली से भी ज्यादा एंटरटेनिंग है। और इन्हीं की लाइन में एक और उपज गए हैं, उनको भोपाली मम्मा बोलते हैं। वो भी मतलब बड़े सरल और बड़े हंसमुख टाइप की चीज है। बड़ा खूबसूरत शहर है, और मानसून के दिनों में तो ये बहुत ही सुंदर हो जाता है, खासतौर पे जब बारिश हो रही है, तेज हवाएं चल रही हैं, और जो उस समय लेक पे अगर जाते हैं तो हवाएं, वेव्स, बड़ी बड़ी लहरें आने लगती हैं। तो बस ऐसी एक शाम थी, और हमारे जो भोपाली मम्मा हैं वो अपने झरोके में बैठे हुए थे। तो उन्होंने अपना फोन निकाला, उन्होंने कहा अपने महबूबा को फोन लगाने के लिए इससे ज्यादा बढ़िया टाइम हो नहीं सकता। उन्होंने फोन लगाया और एक शेर सुनाया, उसी के ऊपर मैं आपको सुना रहा हूँ कि तुम्हारी अदाओं पे मैं वारी वारी, ये उन्होंने अपनी माशुका को सुनाया है। क्योंकि मम्मा है इसलिए उसका लेवल वही रहेगा, तुम्हारी अदाओं पे मैं वारी वारी। अच्छा, होता क्या है कि साल भर मेंटेनेंस करती है हमारी एमपीबी, पर जैसी पहली हवा का झोंका आया आपके इलाके की लाइट कट जाएगी, तो आती जाती रहती, लुका छिपी खेलती है। तो ये शेर एक तरीके से उनको भी ट्रिब्यूट है, एमपीबी वालों को। तुम्हारी अदाओं पे मैं वारी वारी, क्या उधर लाइट आ रही। वो मतलब इतना मौसम रोमांटिक हो, वो उससे पूछ क्या रहे हैं अपनी माशिका से, लाइट का हालचाल। तुम्हारी अदाओं पे मैं वारी वारी, क्या उधर लाइट आ रही, इधर तो आ रही जा रही, आ रही जा रही, आ रही जा रही। और बहुत लंबा कुछ हो सकता है, कभी शाम वाम को मौका मिलेगा, पर अपन इसको अब वापस ट्रैक पे ले आए और भोपाल और उससे भोपालियत से जुड़े हुए बाकी के किस्से से बहुत सारे धारिया उसको ये भी बोलते हैं।
Thank you very much. In a way, he's combined both the genres of this meeting, the intellectual and the creative. और उसमें एक छोटा सा मुझे वो भी याद आ गया, एक कैरेक्टर ऐसा यहाँ पे होता था, सद्दा मियाँ। तो सद्दा मियाँ जब पहली बार बम्बई जैसे ही गए, कभी भोपाल से निकले नहीं थे, सिर्फ उन्होंने तालाब देखा था और वो सारी बातें सुनी थी कि तालों में भोपाल ताल, बाकी सब तलैयाँ वगैरह। तो जैसे ही पहली बार बम्बई गए, पहली बार समुद्र देखा, तो उनका इंस्टेंट रिएक्शन था, अरे हाँ, ये तो भोपाल के तालाब से भी बड़ा है। तो ऐसे बहुत से कैरेक्टर्स यहाँ पे हैं। अबाउट योर बुक, प्रीति ने काफ़ी समय से मुझसे कहा हुआ, शी वांटेड टू मेक अ फिल्म ऑन इट। इट हैज़ अ ग्रेट वैल्यू बट इट नीड्स टू बी डेवलप्ड। मैंने उनको एक सजेशन दिया हुआ है, तो फ्रॉम अ पब्लिक फोरम आई कमिट कि अगर वो सजेशन इनकॉर्पोरेट कर लेती हैं तो वो फिल्म हम 13 दिसंबर को लॉन्च कर देंगे। इट हैज़ अ ग्रेट वैल्यू, जो आपने दोनों बातें कंबाइन की हैं। थोड़ा सा एक सजेशन है, अगर वो मान लेती हैं तो आई गिव यू अ कमिटमेंट, वो भी हो जाएगा। अबाउट बुक्स दैट यू सेड, over 100 books are known here. In fact, some people say 1,000, but I've yet to come across a definitive book on Bhopal like Maximum City in Bombay, etc. I am trying my bit, but that may take some long. तो भोपाल में किताबें तो बहुत सारी हैं, लेकिन अभी भी कोई डेफिनेटिव बुक भोपाल में हो, उसके लिए एक बात जो हमने शुरुआत किया कि विजन का थोड़ा सा पता हो, आइडेंटिटी क्लियर हो, और जो भोपालियत की बात है, धीरे धीरे वे जस्ट मेकिंग अ बिगिनिंग टुडे, पर धीरे धीरे इसको हम फाइन ट्यून करेंगे एंड वील कम टू इट. जैसे आइडेंटिटी की बात करते हैं तो पूरा लेक पे लगा दिया सिटी ऑफ लेक्स. अब सबको पता है कि अगर कोई भी आप जीके की बुक उठा के देख लें, यू आस्क एनी स्टूडेंट, तो जी सिटी ऑफ लेक्स तो हमेशा उदयपुर था, सबको पता है. पर ठीक है, दे कुड बी टू सिटी ऑफ लेक्स. तो अब भोपाल को अगर दो आइडेंटिटी करेंगे तो इट्स सिटी ऑफ लेक्स एंड हिल्स. उसके आगे दो स्टेप और बढ़ाएंगे तो इट्स सिटी ऑफ मॉस्क्स. इट हैज सेकंड हाईएस्ट नंबर ऑफ मॉस्क्स आफ्टर ढाका. मॉस्क्स एंड म्यूजियम फॉर अ सिटी ऑफ इट्स साइज, पूरे इंडिया में कहीं इतने अधिक म्यूजियम नहीं है, सिटी ऑफ इट्स साइज. तो बहुत सी ऐसी आइडेंटिटीज हैं. इफ वी वंस वी आइडेंटिफाई, then only we can say that we can contribute definitely and specifically to Bhopal's development. Thank you once again for your session. Now I think we'll push the break ahead. और जो next session है, it's about Bhopal's architecture and landscape planning. इसके लिए we've invited Dr. Savita Raje. जो छोटी मोटी बातें मुझे पता है that if I ask people in the room to identify 3 or 4 major buildings, especially of modern भोपाल, तो कौन सी बताएंगे? One factoid I will tell you कि दिल्ली में भी there are no 3 चार्ल्स कोरिया buildings. भोपाल में हैं 3, भारत भवन, पर्यावास भवन, विधान सभा. तो 3 बिल्डिंग्स, और तीनों अपने आप में यू कैन सी देयर, किसी को ये पता भी नहीं हो कि किसने बनाई है. वंस यू पास थ्रू देम, आप एक बार रुकेंगे. दिल्ली में यू हैव ब्रिटिश काउंसिल एक्सेट्रा, बट 3 वहां भी नहीं है. But I think Dr. Savita Raje would throw more light on Bhopal's architecture and landscape planning for 15-20 minutes. Do you have a presentation? कि आप हाँ आ जाइए यहाँ से, wherever you want, हाँ wherever you're comfortable.
नमस्कार. अभी तो यहाँ बहुत सारे जानकार लोग बैठे हैं. मैं बहुत और मैं मॉडर्न आर्किटेक्चर पे तो ज़्यादा बोल ही पाऊंगी. प्रेजेंटेशन में मैंने उसके विजुअल्स नहीं रखे हैं जैसा शशिधर जी एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे थे. तो मैं जो बात करूंगी वो है भोपाल का लैंडस्केप एंड आर्किटेक्चर, भोपाल के एंटीसीडेंट्स क्या हम लेके आए थे. और मैं ये बताना चाहूंगी कि मॉडर्न भोपाल में वो सब कहीं पीछे छूट गया. मतलब वो एक कहानी अलग रह गई और नई भोपाल की अलग कहानी शुरू हुई. तो मैं जो भोपाल के आर्किटेक्चरल एंड लैंडस्केप प्लानिंग एक तरीके से एंटीसीडेंट्स की बात करूंगी कि क्या हमें मिला था और उसको कहाँ छोड़ के हम नई राह पे निकल गए. तो जैसा अभी जब नेक्स्ट स्लाइड, जैसा हम लोग हमेशा बोलते हैं या मैं खासकर बोलती हूँ, भोपाल एक ऐसा शहर है जो लैंडस्केप प्लानिंग से ही शुरू हुआ है. यहाँ नेचुरल रिवर्स हैं, नेचुरल हिल्स हैं, बट उसको ह्यूमन क्रिएशन एंड ह्यूमन टेक्नोलॉजी से बड़ी बड़ी लेक्स में कन्वर्ट किया. तो the story starts in 1010 AD when Raja Bhoj made this dam, which you can see a small dam between the two hills, and river Kolans was made to move between these two hills, and the result was the Bada Talab. So ये 1010 AD का नक्शा है where you can see all the existing hills, river Kolans, and the newly generated water body, that is Baratala. And it was part of a bigger hydraulic system. It was connected to a Sagar Tal near Bhojpur, Bhimbetka, and the Bhimbetka, the archaeological findings do tell us the signs of a huge water body on their rocky surfaces. So, next, next. So the landscape and antecedents of Bhopal was the hills, which is a big hill range of hills, which includes Bhimbetika, which includes the hills in Kathotia, which includes the hills inside Bhopal, and which also includes the prehistoric civilization. It has the signs of prehistoric civilization, as you know in Bhimbetka. Next. Also, it has Bhojpur and Ashapuri almost in early 11th century. So, these are the antecedents of Bhopal when the city was created. Next. Then came the time of those Muhammad Khan. Like the urban Bhopal that we see today was a creation of the Nawabi period. So there came those. I will not go into all the stories because all of you are, um, you know about the history of Bhopal. So those Muhammad Khan came to Jagdishpur, renamed it Islamnagar, and built a fortress over there on the banks of River Patra, which originates in Bhopal. And he made this beautiful fortress palace called Islamnagar, which is still there. It has beautiful palatial complexes. It has in Bhopal, that is the only place where you have signs of Mughal garden. Like you have all those chini khanas, you have the chadars, you have fagwaras working with gravitation force. So you have all the elements of Mughal garden in Islamnagar, and you have a beautiful hammam and the system of pulling up water from the Patra River by Persian wheels and supplying it to the entire palatial complex. So it has all these, what you see on the left hand side is the canals and the chini khanas, which are the jharokhas on top of which the water curtain falls, and the chini khanas would hold gold and silver vessels or lamps, gold and silver vessels during the day and lamps in the night to give a very shimmering type of effect and diffuse lighting to the entire area. Next. Then comes the mid 18th century when the Chota Talab was created. You see on the mouth of the upper lake across the dam, the Chota Talab was created, and that became the second water body of Bhopal. And then followed the lake making activity. Then three more water bodies were created. All these are man-made. So I would say the landscape planning and the city went hand in hand, side by side. The city and landscape were entwined together because all these are man-made. Next. So this is Bhopal of 1919 AD. Like you have Bada Talab, Chota Talab. Then where I have written seven is the three cascading lakes. One lake would get filled, overflow into second, and it will overflow into the third, and the third will irrigate the Barabag, which is in the series, the green portion you see. And the Barabag itself has about four step wells which are still full of water. One of the step wells is used by the Nagar Nigam to fill tankers, and they give a constant supply of water all over Bhopal. So the area is full of water, and then it goes and feeds the Ghoranakkas Nala. It is a river, we have made it a Nala. So the entire area becomes the catchment of Ghoranakkas. And this entire drainage network was understood by the planners, the city planners during the Nawabi era, and you can see lot of aqueducts and lot of underground systems which would take the water to these three cascading lakes. So the city of Bhopal, the urban area, had five water bodies, which made the city very pleasant because otherwise the climate is hot dry. With the presence of these lakes and the wind flows, which would make the air cool, made the city very pleasant. This pleasantness of the climate reflected itself in architecture. Because if the climate is pleasant, so in Bhopal, the winter is also called gulabi sardi. When the cheeks go pink, and that's it. It is not very cold. So and the summer is nowadays it is different, um, but in the historic city of Bhopal, it is still quite pleasant because the air we made a complete study of air flows, how the heat flows from one place to another, how it is impacted by the water bodies. We made actual measurements and we have proved that the air flows through the water body has been given a lot of importance by the placement of the buildings so that the buildings remain very cool and comfortable. So this pleasantness of climate, which was an outcome of landscape planning, is reflected and continued in the building design. Of course, Bhopal becomes unique also because it has a continuous 100-year rule of Begums, feminine rule. That means the femininity, the feminine aspects also got reflected in the city planning because the women have a different way of looking at things. They are more nurturing, they are more peaceful. I won't mind saying that because they in the family also they keep everyone together and run the house. So women, the feminine aspect has been reflected in the building design and the city planning of Bhopal. Next. So now this is the present built up scene of Bhopal where you can see these two lakes and the three lakes and the built up massing and the wind direction is from southwest and how the wind direction has been exploited by the building design. Next. Of course, every city has a skyline, and skyline becomes the identity. Bhopal also had the identity of the minarets of the mosque, but somehow this identity is totally lost now. But conscious effort should have been done to retain this identity. It has the identity has been lost because of it has been lost to boxes only. All you see is boxes now, and you don't see the sensitive handling of built massing in the historic Bhopal. Next. Anyway, next. So this is the Iqbal Maidan area, which of course this is a study which was conducted to showcase how the courtyards and the little alleys uh, have an effect on creating a microclimate. You have the Babesi Kazri gate through which the lake, the winds from the lake, they enter through small apertures, and when hot air enters through small apertures it becomes cool, and then it goes into these courtyards, and then these the bigger courts, Iqbal Maidan and the Sadar Manzil court, and then it goes and enters into smaller courtyards. So you will find all the windows and doors are opening into the smaller courtyards. Outside there are very little openings because the air is conditioned, there is passive cooling techniques employed, and then it goes and feeds into the room. So still the rooms are much more comfortable in hot climate in summers than modern buildings of say Arira Colony or wherever Kolar or modern Bhopal. These buildings are much more thermally comfortable than the modern architecture. Next. Then I would say this court, Iqbal Maidan and the surrounding buildings is the signature area of Bhopal because it gives you so many messages to the architects and planners how to locate the built up mass with respect to airflows, how the built up mass has been designed. You have the you have Shaukat Mahal, which has it was inhabited by the Bourbons. Then you have Sheesh Mahal, which has a lot of tinted glass work, and you have Moti Mahal. You are facing Moti Mahal right now, which is facing Moti Masjid, and it has a lot of character and showcases the architecture of that period. Next. These are archival of Iqbal Maidan area. Yes. Of course, it had two huge kidney cake trees, out of which only one remains. And the conception of open Maidans in those times was not just they were full of fruit bearing trees. They were not using non fruit bearing trees. The emphasis was always on fruit bearing trees. So this is from Sheesh Mahal, a balcony from Sheesh Mahal. You can see the tinted glass work in Sheesh Mahal, and inside also you have a lot of mirror work and tinted glass work inside Sheesh Mahal, which is occupied by banks. This was before the VIP road came in, was constructed. This was the linkage of Gauhar Mahal with the lake. Now, the courtyards are an essential element of the architecture of Bhopal, and into these courtyards, all the openings open. And these courtyards either had trees, or had fountains, or had a water pond, and all these trees were fruit bearing trees, either mango or you have so many, even in Islamnagar you have a tree of aru. So you have so many interesting trees here which further cool down the spaces. So emphasis was to build thermally comfortable places. Next. And then you have a rivage of lot of terraces in the city because terraces of course were used for kite flying, but there was another culture happening on the terraces which has been lost today. Next. As I said, of course, this is the Wazoo tank of Moti Masjid, but then the insensitivity of planning will show that huge water tank there. You have nice water body, nice fountain, and then you see this huge water tank right there. So you see the delicate treatment of spaces here, and then the massive water tank there. If people were sensitive enough to architecture and the antecedents the city had, they would have designed the water tank properly or relocated it, which was not very difficult. But the idea is people don't respond to their architectural heritage. Next. Southern Manzil, like I said, each courtyard either had trees or had fountains, and the Southern Manzil also had a fountain, and the actual fountain is at the PHQ. It is tra- transferred there, and the trees that you see here are later additions. The old, the in the historic city, people would never plant this tree, which gives no fruits. Next. Then the architectural typology had, as I said, the courtyards, the terraces, and then these semi-open galleries which would open towards the courtyard. So there, because of the pleasantness of the climate, there were many semi-open spaces, and people were living in those semi-open spaces. Next. Next. So you see, this space is called Dalan, which is opening towards the courtyard. So there were courtyards, there were dalans, and you can see in those images, most of the living is happening in these dalans, the semi-open spaces, because they are so comfortable. The courtyard is making the air so cool, and people don't go inside into their rooms. They Most of the living is happening in the dalans. Yes. So this is a plan of. I'm talking more of the common man's house. These are the slides, the exhibition panels, because we exhibited the architecture of Bhopal in many places in France and Italy, and including India International Center, Delhi, where it was exhibition was held for 15 days, and one of the most visited exhibition, as they said. Um, so this shows the plan of a house, the courtyards, the dalans, and the upper floor would have a open space which would be covered from three sides and open from the top, which is called chandni. So you had angan, you had dalan, you had chandni. So these names reflected the comfort of the places that were there. Next. Of course, this Itrakhana was there in Yasin Mahal. Yasin Mahal is the Mahal of the direct lineage of those Muhammad Khan. You know the history of Bhopal. At one time, the rule came to the Begum at the time of Qutsia Begum. And there was the actual lineage of those Muhammad Khan who were also interested in getting the rule, but they got late by a few half an hour or something. And the Bourbon, they pleaded the case of Qutsia Begum to the Britishers. So that is how the rule came to Qutsia Begum. And Yasin Mahal is the place where the direct lineage of those Muhammad Khan stays. Right now, the 10th generation of those Muhammad Khan stays in this house. House has been divided into bits and pieces, and many have sold it and settled somewhere else. The images on the bottom you see are the images of Itrakhana, which is now gone. It has been pulled down. But it was a beautiful chambers where Itr. Bhopal is also known for its Itr. It was an Itrakhana where there were niches, beautiful niches where the Itr were placed, different types of Itr. Yes. Um, in in the architecture of Bhopal, lot of importance was given to daylighting. Like the top image shows the Nawab Manzil, where a rich man was taking the daylight through wedge-shaped apertures, which would take the light and throw it to a greater distance. And lower is a poor man's house who is also taking the light from a skylight, and it is having a light throw. It is lighting up the entire room. So during the day, you don't need any daylight. Next. This is another house right there in the chalk where um, this house is connected to the Digambar Jain Mandir, which is the Shikhar you see there. But Shikhar is recent. Earlier it was a very small temple, and they have their passages to serve the munis who would come to the temple. Now this house is also gone. It is not there. It was a beautiful house with all the typology, the coach. Of course, this particular house is right there in the center of the chalk. So this is another typology where there was no courtyard. So this house without a courtyard, but it has a chandni and it has terraces. Next. This is the chandni from where a simple jali overlooks the chowk. And when you are sitting in this chandni, you feel you do not even hear the noise and the din of the chalk. It is so pleasant over here. But you can have a glimpse of all the colors happening in the chalk. You can see the minarets of Jama Masjid. Yes. I'm going overshooting the time or not?
Couple of minutes more.
Acha. Another simple jari. Next. Anyway, the house that is no more, but it was such beautiful houses in the historic city of Bhopal. Next street. Next. The streets were also designed in such a manner that they would shade each other and there would be no heat during the day. Jamia Masjid. The masjids were having access from all three sides, saying that anyone from anywhere can come to the mosque. Next. There were many temples also which are knitted into the urban fabric of the city. This is Shriji Haveli temple of Shri Krishna. It has a functioning well also. And there are many more temples which are knitted into the fabric. They were not having shikhars during the Nawabi period, but they were very nicely worked out temples with the priests living in that house. Bhopal, as someone said, is also known for its patiyas. So every house had this interactive space where people could sit and interact with the neighbor. Now, in modern architecture, there is no interaction space. You don't know who is your neighbor. You just don't talk to the neighbor. This is a very beautiful house. It is a miniature of Sadar Manzil, where you have the courtyard, the fountain, the dalan, the chani, everything. It is almost a miniature of Sadar Manzil, but in a smaller scale.
Where it is located?
In the shop. ये um, uh, यूनानी शफा खाने के पास. Then you have all different type of house, which is multi-story, and you have a central courtyard, and the lower floor have sliding folding doors. So when you open these doors, fold these doors, the entire space becomes one. So there was a lot of flexibility of spaces. There was no rigidity. Today in modern architecture, rooms contain and there is so much of rigidity. Here the things that we should learn is how to make spaces flexible. So you don't get bored of those spaces. Victoria School, which was the girls' school, which is still existing, but now it has been made co-ed school, and it was designed for girls. So you had a solid wall from outside, and all the light was taken from skylights. The Bamia house was a huge palatial house, not belonging to royal family, but for to a rich businessman, which is lying in ruins only after Cochin is inhabited, but is a beautiful piece of architecture. Hafiz Manzil is a typical Muslim house which does not have a shop on the front. This is also in the chalk. It has an entrance, then a small vestibule, and with which leads to the first floor, and it has a courtyard, and then all the elements, as I have said already. Hafiz Manzil has a projected dalan, which makes it different. The upper dalan is of Dabba Miya house. Next. This is Hafiz Manzil at the top, and the bottom is uh, Sayyid Sajid Ali house, which is totally transformed now. Only Hafiz Manzil remains. Next. Next, we will just move. Uh, Bhopal also has a lot of architecture which is having metal filigree work, very delicate work with metal and wood. Then the architecture of 1960s, 70s. So if you make a timeline of architecture, it has representations of all architectural styles. This was when the patterns on the plaster was becoming very popular. Next. All these pattern making on the elevations. Then we come to the architecture of 1930s, 1920s, which was which had this cast iron work and the stone masonry, because earlier it was brick masonry, wood and lime. Now it becomes stone masonry and cast iron work. Then all these are stone masonry, thicker walls, and lot of RCC being used, which may have different, uh, which made people use the spaces and visualize the spaces in a much different manner. Next. Though the typology remains the same, the courtyard, the dalan, the chandni, and the terrace. Next. Then we had a lot of sarais where people from outside would come and sell their goods. So is a beautiful sarai Jumeirati Bhavan, or in a much dilapidated condition, but it is having shops at the bottom. Then in the middle floor is the storage space, and the upper floor is a dormitory where beds are given, lockers are given, and traders would come and sell their goods there and rest for the night. Next. Then we have many houses where the freedom struggle took place. This is one of the house which was the focus of the freedom struggle, and this is a lady who would still अपना खुद का कॉटन से धागा बनाती थी, और जितनी साड़ी उनको चाहिए she would weave on her own. And she this house had a lot of cottage industry type of activities also, where they were making paper mache idols and all that. They also had uh, they would take out a children's magazine, and the number of the copies of magazines are still like that. They are handmade children's magazines. Then you have Sarai Jumeirati Secondary, in front of which you have this famous Namkeen Chai Bhopal ki. And this is a bigger courtyard because here people were coming with their horse chariots, and they would place their horse vehicles here, park the horses in the central courtyard. And there were small cubicles on the sides where it would stay. And it is a very beautiful architecture, small cubicle with a little dome, and all the horses will stay in the courtyard protected, and um, they would sell their goods and go away. Then there are many temples, historical temples, which were on the banks of the lakes. This is quite an ancient temple, Shitla Mata Mandir. We have documented all the masjids with in the chalk only there are 36 masjids, as you said. Bhopal is also known for the number of masjids. Next, next. Then uh, this is quickly I will tell you how the modern development has impacted the historic fabric of the city. Next. So the image, the real image showed the three cascading lakes as they were designed. This is today's built up mass where you have the buildings coming into the lake area and they have just destroyed the natural drainage pattern of the area. So these are the we have mapped down the natural drainage and the pink markings show how the natural drainage has been blocked in lakes and therefore the middle lake is suffering the most. Next, next, next. So this is from one newspaper the actual image of the three cascading lakes, how it was before the building block came in between. I'm just running through these images. Then Bhopal was also known for its gardens. There were so many gardens. Nulbagh is still there in the PHQ. You had Ash Bagh, you had um, Nishad Bagh, you had Hayat Bagh. You had so many gardens which were designed as proper gardens, which are quite a bad shape. Next, next. We will just run through the images. The Taj Mahal, it is still getting renovated. Next. Taj Masjid, which is the largest mosque in Asia. Next. Benazir, the inner hall of Benazir Palace, which also has this tinted glass door. Next. Just run through. This is very important that this is the stepwell in Badabagh, which is lying in a very, very bad shape. It used to be used by the students from Safia College just after independence. They would go there and study because all the chambers would be so cool. This is a three-story high stepwell, and Bhopal has many stepwells which are very beautiful. There is one is in Kazi Camp also, which is almost falling down. It has been filled up by the people without telling anyone. So this stepwell particularly is so beautiful and it has lot of water, and people are taking out water from they have installed a pump here. They are using the water, but not giving any attention to this.
Savitari, is this a latest picture? How
This
old
is
is this?
this picture is latest. It gets up to 3 floors.
No, what I meant to say, this picture, water, etc., is recently taken or is an old picture about 10 years old or something?
Yes, 10 years, 10 to 11.
Any idea about its status now?
It still gets filled up.
Like,
There is lot of water because all the surface water right from Idgah Hills, where Idgah is there, it is coming and there is the groundwater table is also very high. We have mapped the geological features also. So there is a lot of groundwater here and which feeds the Ghoranakas.
thank you.
Okay. So,
So we have mapped the geological features which say there is a lot of groundwater. This is the same step well. Anyway, I will not talk. It is so many examples of buildings here. This was the place where Siddiq Hassan Khan was kept under house arrest by the British. Next. Next. So, of course, I'm not talking of modern architecture here, but the modern architecture, as you know, because all of you are aware of modern architecture of Bhopal, it has nothing no, no sign, no takeaway from the architectural heritage we have, nor by way of comfort of spaces, livability of spaces. You cannot exist in the modern houses and buildings without switching on the daylight, without switching on the cooler, or without the AC. Whereas people in these houses laugh at the modern architecture because they are very comfortable. And I have come to believe that if you live in spaces which are comfortable, you have longer lifespan also. So in these houses, people were there were many old people above 90 and they were very agile. None was bedridden and they were very healthy. So I always tell my students that the medical and the electrical bills are both lesser in these houses. Thank you very much.
Thank you for. We now come to the last session of this before tea break, a small session. Just one or two points that she's added. That there were feminine aspects to the city. We could not think of it. Secondly, that what you said about new modern blocks, one of the biggest eyesores is the Gandhi Medical College. The way they've done it, apart from the way it is covered with Tajul Masajid, I don't know whether it's deliberate or whatever. It's totally killed the skyline, both by its looks and the color and everything else. So that is why we've kept this, but we would have uh, really preferred this because we've come to a slightly larger gathering from usual of 25 to gathering because we wanted students to join it. I can't see managed students here. Acha, from SPA? Acha, you said research scholars, and because people had been requesting me, so I want them to join gradually in increasing numbers because we want to pass on this to next generation. We need more students from next time onwards. Just 2 points I want to make. One is that we had an Art Deco masjid on uh, Ahmedabad Palace, if you've seen that, and plus the building that you are sitting in right now. This is also an example how uh, if you see the design, it's actually shaped as a crown. You see it from outside. So this also is an architectural marvel of sorts. And one building I'm really worried about, people have argued with me that they've given to private entrepreneurs, Southern Manzil area. It's fine now that they've given to a hotelier, Moti Mahal, etc., part of which is being dilapidated and renovated. But after spending 5 crores in Sadar Manzil, they've again given it to a private person. And nowhere in the country there is policy that government spends money and gives it to somebody else. It's as if various basis. That is one point. Secondly, nowhere in the country have public places being given. People have given palaces for heritage buildings. Sadar Manzil was not a palace; it was a public place. You used to have municipal corporation there. Their smart city has spent 5 crores, and now they're renovating again, fiddling with the original architecture and given it to private people. That has to be stopped. You give the entire other area to private, okay, convert that to a hotel, but Sadar Manzil cannot be given. I mean, in fact, I wanted that building to be, in some time in future, the meeting place for Bhopal International Center because Bhopal has no museum. So I went there and I saw the Thekedar was renovating it again after spending 5 years. The whole logic they gave me was, पूरे देश में होता है. I said, एक building बताओ. Public places are not given. So that is one point I wanted to raise. Now we come to the last thing from a person whose father had made, I think, the most number of buildings in Bhopal. He has a small presentation. After that, there's a tea break. Sharma sir, 5 or 10 minutes, and then 5 o'clock we have tea break. Just 1 second. After this, we really come to the hardcore intellectual, Khandekarji and other people. This was just building up. So those two issues would be taken up, for which SPA people also have come in, and married students will participate.
Hello. Good afternoon. First of all, I'll like to say that whatever
presentation I made is based on uh, photographs which I had. My father had collected in different albums, so I had scanned these photographs. And of course, the time I spent with him because he would take me to visit to different sites where the buildings were being constructed. I was born in 1949, and the schooling started from primary school, and thereafter Sunday convent school. So I am familiar with the old Bhopal as well as the new development of New Bhopal, that is Taja Nagar. So just go to the previous slide. As Bhopal, we talk about nowadays we talk about smart city. I wonder what is the smart city like. People study earlier plan was to develop Shivaji Nagar as smart city. Thereafter, there are a lot of objections was there. Then the smart city concept shifted to South Asian Nagar. I believe that making part of a city as smart will not make Bhopal as a smart city because that area which is being developed has to depend upon the infrastructure facilities and cannot become smart, replacing a this thing, part in the body with a new part and then expect the body to function as a young body. It's just impossible. So Bhopal, as Mr. Raja pointed out, and as Mr. Kothari has also pointed out, Bhopal, old Bhopal, heritage Bhopal was a smart city, was smart, and the development after the merger of Bhopal state in the Indian Union, because it was the concept was there, it was conceived to develop it further into a smart city. And it also developed into a smart city because you see, if you see that Tata Nagar, the well-planned road, link number one, link number two, link number three, setback lines, the different quarters were well separated. Each location had, each area had parks, schools, playgrounds, hospitals, some other stuff. And even we see markets also we go to this markets like your near bus stop like bus stop number two, market number three, bus stop number four, like there is bus stop number 10, main market. It started with this main market was also a separate market. So this concept came from the administrators at that time, and of course, and in that the lieutenant governors up to 52, and thereafter our Secretary Sharma ji, who received a pioneer role in means considering that idea, and then how this city came up. And because of this started open only for the development has survived. So it is just impossible for development could have taken place. It is up till 1970 and thereafter complete development, no foresight, no planning, and every whole means you cannot say this after 70, you don't, whatever development has taken place, you don't see any straight road, you don't see any playgrounds, you don't see any big parks. All development what on which places Bhopal is surviving because of this started and the development we were conceived by those people during 1950s, early 50s and late 60s. So I'll start with the thing, this my presentation. I showed the Bhopal station how it looked then. Next slide. This is the combined military hospital. It was particular four campus in which just Bhopal State Armed Forces were based. This was see the previous slide. These are doctors, bungalows, and you see rooms are listed nurses hostel. This is the major hospital. Combined military hospital later on converted the major hospital. It is at the Favorite Fort campus. This is the lake behind, upper lake. This is how this Tajul Masjid looked 1950s, and this is how it looks now. And this is Muti Masjid. And the rear side you see the lake, and in front they had a garden at the time. And we used to live opposite to both the masjid. Adaniya wala makan was there, and we used to live in that house. Yes. Okay, so now it is a parking lot. And this is how the metro hall where we are sitting here used to look. And now, those period, that period, 1950, the 52 onward, as Sir Ron mentioned that Mr. Nehru had a great liking for Shankar Sharma. He had made the maximum visits to Bhopal during that time. Probably because of liking or because of attraction to Bhopal. And these are number of visitors who visited Bhopal, dignitaries who visited Bhopal during that period. And these are foreign dignitaries who came to Bhopal in that period. That is the formation of Bhopal. The major buildings were designed by my father were the Cambridge School. The Cambridge School came up because Mr. Heather, K. Heather was the finance minister of Bhopal. He wanted one English medium school to come up in Bhopal. And that's how he had proposed the site of Golghar for the Cambridge English medium school to be built. Yeah. My father had designed the Cambridge school, and at that time he ensured that the Bhopal gate does not get demolished. Bhopal gate is remains there so that the whole heritage is preserved and the building came by the side of that. And opposite to that, Nitya temple came up. Named for Nitya temple, now Bhopal had donated 8,000 rupees at that time. The second building. The third building which came up, I would like people to guess. It is the building which is known as Bank of Bhopal. Any idea? Bank of Bhopal. Bank of Bhopal is a building where present GPO, the GPO Reserve Post Office is there. That was initially Bank of Bhopal. Later it got converted into Reserve Post Office, opposite to the market. And then subsequent, my father, this thing, of course, coming to the next slide. There's a number of buildings, a large number of buildings which are designed by him. At one time, I said there is not single lane where my father designed house is not there. Like, even private like say Jawaharlal building, about Kale Ka Wala Unka building, there is not a single designed house is not there. Even Capital Market, which is on Hamidia Road, first topic, first cinema hall was Lakshmi Talkies, then next was Bharat Talkies, and third was Bhopal Talkies. So, means that time, I don't know, but from whatever records I have, I have listed the building which was designed by him. It includes religious buildings also, as well as bridges and other schools, hostels, etc. Now, coming to the next page, here is list of buildings. This is the foundation stone ceremony of that temple which is the Sachi Stupa. This is the foundation stone was built by Nawab Gopal in 1948, and it was inaugurated in 1952. And this is the time of this foundation stone gate leaf ceremony. The next slide is the time of inauguration. Inauguration with the all airport come, then Yunu and Nanak, they were there. 1952. And then this in Polytechnic. Polytechnic building was, of course, there's a model which is being impacted by Alvar Shastri, Mr. Bhagwan Sahib. The foundation stone was laid by him, Alvar Shastri. Right, this is in the construction stage. Left you see Bhuvan Sahib and Shastri in the center. And this is the building, polytechnic. Then Gandhiman College, Chandigarh Board, Chandigarh, because lot of buildings, these hostels and this hospital, hospital building, they came up inside the Chandigarh Board campus. This was the campus. And this is the when the Gandhiman College site was selected. And the initial ceremony, you see the Chandira Sharma ji, Minister. This is the model of Gandhiman College. This is the being explained to Shastri, and at time Mr. Bhargav was the Lieutenant Governor. Still, this is the they are being respected. Rajkumari Ramnath Kaur was the Union Minister of Health. The inauguration of Amitabh Awards by the hospital building model being shown to this is the foundation. This is the foundation. The foundation shown during of Gandhi College, 1955, and this is the invitation card written for the King of Nepal. Because he had come to Nepal and inaugurated boys' hostel at the Paliwad Port campus. This is the inauguration of Malwa hostel. In Motilal Vigyan Mahavidyalaya. This foundation is one was laid by Vijay College. Vijay College, actually, there is also Vijay College is also a science college. Vijay College later on the operated polytechnic was Sarojini Naidu College for girls. But Vijay College actually it was named Vijay College later on again. Presently now it's known as IT for girls. But Vijay College, original Vijay College came up to the science college. MBM College. MBM College is actually Vijay College. Vijay College initially classes were held here. And from there they shifted to Vijay College. This is after this name is MBM College. Arts College was actually Vijay Arts College was actually college for girls. Then eligible Vigyan Bhavan. Vigyan Bhavan, the foundation stone was laid by Kailash Nath Chatterjee and inaugurated by Chief Governor of Bombay. And this governor, the Chief Prakash, when this building got inaugurated, Vigyan Bhavan attention to the Indian British. This is how the building looks. The Savinari College, this is called Vijay College. This is always confusion. This was model and this was during construction. These are the girls' hostel. That's from girls to across the lake to the other side. Now come back to the original piece of real construction. The number of academic administration, this was model. And Bal Vihar, I don't know whether the Bal Vihar was a small park adjacent to Bhopal Talkies. It is now now defunct. All the shopping complexes come around it, it cannot be seen. And this was competition shown by Deshmukh. Bukabai Deshmukh. This was Balga as it looked after completion. This is the layout of the secretariat, the buildings are right. The secretariat is a complete complex of his building plus secretariat. Veterinary hospital. This large number of buildings are there, largest then going to review hospitals, Bundar was fund. If you hospital equals, it is on the rear side.
Yes. We'll, we'll share the, perhaps if we, in the group and also put on the site. Okay.
Gilani hospital, colony. It was conceived by Mrs. Vimla Sharma. She wanted that one hospital to come up there. And even this is actually a large number of district buildings were designed by my father. So, schools, hospital, the Seva Sadan was designed by him. In most of the schools means St. Louis Convent and St. Francis School, Common Convent School, almost all the buildings designed. This was Shaman. And you are known, he was the only person I think he was wearing that sun hat.
So, so I think we will share the,
Here I summarize my views I expressed.
Yeah.
But while being without foresight, long term vision, and left to the colony roads with disoriented, not in integrated manner, each colony having its own infrastructure, compliant, essential service association, distributors, entire according to vision, covering a wider spectrum, varying to the goals of common public. Commercialization of over 80 feet wide roads with unchecked encroachment of that congestion and restricted free movement of traffic. Further, non-availability of special park areas, full governments, within a limited and some of the drains shall have a disaster effect on the environment. Capturing the dream of its founders for putting a dark future of the modern generation. The politicians of government is smart, give more attention to those especially the common public. That their own enforce law and order, things on ground are not going to change. There's a deteriorated with time.
just one last 10 minutes before we take a break. There are two intellectual sections. One is on illegal colonies, which Khandekarji will do. And thank you very much. If he shares this with us, we can share this whole information with members.
I like to one in private building, they have colony, even Dylan's house, Mr. Narona's, Mr. Shakul, Mr. Bush, Mr. N.K. Sharma, like all the top, you got Mr. All their houses were designed by him. So, and it's not that he had complete selfless service, And even Mr. Bush has made his, which we had on, he made a comment. His
On that road, he said, "Ki Hawai Jahaz utaroge."
Getting the exact word for it, but he was a complete simple person and never ever expected, never had anything from. And in fact, in the capital project, what the work he had done, what the buildings he had designed, he was offered the land of Kirol Park as a gift at Bhagwan Sahib had given. And he refused. He told the name of my chief engineer not taken, my CM is not taken, then the question does not arise. The three people who had, I think, in my knowledge, there are three people who play a major role. Of course, Sanjay Sharma ji was there. He had a very able chief engineer in the name of Mirza Prem Beg. His name is also not covered, it's not reflected anywhere. He was a chief engineer at that time. And of course, my father was assistant architect. And of course, there was other officers there, not those about them.
Okay.
And whatever I could, try and find with my father and from the albums which I had,
Thank you. Thank you.
I could try to recover.
Thank you. You said Bhopal was an original smart city. We have two examples, one GTB complex and BHEL. We already had models of smart city. And now we come to the hardcore session of today, the topical thing about the declaration by the CM that all the illegal colonies would be made legal at the eve of elections. It is an interactive session after Mr. Khandekar's talk, 5-10 minutes and 5 minutes, and after that tea break. Khandekar sir.
I thought that as per the program, Naidu sir is to coordinate.
He'll
So
come.
let him do the context setting for that session. Is there it?
Please. Wherever you're comfortable.
I can consider myself as much a Bhopali as Mr. Sharma is. Dr. Kapoor is. I've been seeing this city since 1952. It was just a town of 60,000 people, and I see that it got recognized. As we realize now, that the modern architectural teachers are referring to the old buildings here, which had wisdom opposed to the smart. And in the process, we have also started realizing that much of the smartness lies in grabbing things. And that's how we come to the fact that encroachment is the order of the day. Uh, and the past 20, 25 years, whatever construction has taken place in the name of bridges, roads, or flyovers, or whatever, it hasn't ended the way it was meant to. I was told land when you wanted to land. The roads don't sustain themselves for more than 1 year. So we know the smartness. So where is the smartness? That we take pride in the fact that the smartness lies, or rather, the social hierarchy is perhaps decided by the impunity with which we break the law. That's how we have been seeing mobile shaping. I mean,